Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matt and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial. So this is it, the very last episode in the Mumbo Jumbo Hermitcraft MEGABASE tutorial, and as you can see, first of all, I have actually taken this from that big flatland world we had it in and put it in a real world, and I think it looks awesome. You can see here from the colours it's just on the edge of the jungle biome there, just about inside it, so we've got all the lovely nice vibrant jungle colours going on in it. And of course, in this episode, we're actually going to be doing all our work inside the base, inside that central section there, getting the redstone done, getting all these lights lit up and counting down, getting the heart beating with that nice heartbeat that goes on throughout the base, and then that will be us finished. There will be no more of this series to do. So without further ado, let's get on and start that. Okay, so here I am inside the structure. We can start with any one of our 4 displays, and whichever one we're on, we're going to be starting with this right-hand column of light, which is of course going to be the left-hand column if we're looking at it from the outside, because this column is going to be the first column that counts down, and if these get all the way to the bottom and all those lights are off, it's going to start counting down this column as well. Now the pattern we're going to be building this up in, I've got some solid blocks here just to lay out all my redstone on, and I'm using a nice bright yellow concrete to make it obvious where the redstone goes. You can use whatever solid block you want for this. So we're going to place a square of 2 by 2 blocks coming out from the bottom of that lamp there. Then go 1, 2, 3, and 4 blocks back. So 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. Then from that block, we are going to come out like that twice. Block on top there, and a block on top there. 1 up and 2 up in a diagonal from that one. Come across. Go up 1 more, and then we're repeating this pattern. So 2 blocks there, 1, 2, 3, and then that's the 4th one. 2 blocks out from there, go on top of each. 1, 2, 3 in a diagonal, across, and up 1 more. Now I've done that for the first 4 lights on that side. There are 6 lights in total, so there's still these 2 to do. The reason I have stopped here is because when we get to this 5th light, the pattern changes ever so slightly, and I'll show you the reason for that when we actually get to putting the redstone on, but for now just follow what I am doing. So this is the 4th light. Here we have our 2 blocks like that. We're going to come up 1 as we did before. We're then going to come out like that. Rather than going straight up, we've got 2 blocks here. Then we're going up and across, and then from here we'll do our 2 blocks. We'll bring that all the way back here, and we'll continue this like we did before up to the top. So it's just that 5th light, that bit here coming up to the 5th light, that's slightly different from the rest of the pattern. Okay, so now to put the redstone into this, you're mostly going to be using redstone dust and redstone comparators. We will also have just a couple of repeaters as well. So you're going to start with some redstone comparators. This block here, we have a comparator going into it, a comparator coming out of it like that, and a comparator coming out of it like that. Then 2 comparators going into those lamps, and some redstone dust across there. You're going to have redstone dust from this block going 1, 2, 3 up like that, and a comparator going into this block. Then redstone dust on top, and then it repeats. So we have comparator, 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 2 comparators there, redstone dust there, and then redstone dust going all the way up. Now when you get to this section going up to the 5th lamp, it's almost the same. We just place redstone dust on top of those 2, comparator on that one, and then repeat it here up to there, and then here, because we have 2 blocks here rather than just the 1, we have 2 comparators going to that. Same here, that's all the same as before, and then to come up to the top here, when you redstone dust up, comparator into that one, redstone dust on top with a repeater, and then repeaters or comparators either way. Let's just do comparators to keep it the same, running into those redstone lamps. Now the way we are going to power this is by having a couple of droppers facing into each other. So we're going to place a dropper and make sure this is a dropper and not a dispenser there next to that comparator facing that way. Place a temporary block there with a dropper facing back. So we now have these 2 droppers facing into each other. Now this dropper here, the one with the comparator, we want to fill with any 6 non-stackable items. Now I'm going to use wooden shovels because I think that's probably the cheapest, or certainly one of the cheapest items you could use to do this. Use whatever you want. So those 6 are going in there like that, and you will now see that all of this is lit up. So what's going to happen is as this spits items out into this dropper, the signal strength coming out of here is going to decrease, and that is going to decrease these lights. So there's 6 items in here, there's 6 lights. For every 1 item that comes out of here, if we push that button, that top light goes off. If we push the button again, the next light goes off, and again, that light goes off, and so on and so forth until all of those are off. And then when we put our item in, we'll be dealing with that a little bit later. It's going to detect, some system up there is going to detect that our item has come in, our golden apple or whatever it is. It's going to tell this dropper to split all the items back into that dropper, and all of our lights are going to come back on. So what we need to do now is create a mirror image of this, only it's going to be on the other side. So with 2 there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then so on. There we go. That is now a nice mirror image. So that side is all set up as well. I'll get them all turned on in a second. But just while we're on this section of the redstone, I didn't quite mention yet the reason we have this slight difference here up at the 5th lamp. It's very simply because the signal strength coming out of there, basically it doesn't quite reach up to here. So with 6 items, that 6th light would not quite reach. That signal strength would only just reach to this block, not to this block, and it wouldn't turn all that on. Same story with the 5th lamp. When you go down to 5 items, it doesn't quite reach to here. For the first 4, it does. So it's just a little bit of a quirk of the signal strength coming out of that. That means we just need this little extra bit of space to put 1 extra comparator in there to make sure that signal strength does reach all the way up to the top. Now this side is all turned on as well. And before we move on and get these built on these other 3 sides, I just want to explain briefly this system that I have done here. If you have a look in this dropper here, you'll see that I have 7 other wooden shovels rather than 6 over here. Now the reason for that is whenever the system detects that this has gotten down to its last light, it'll send a signal over here to start counting down on this one. This is all attached up to the same counting system. So while this is counting down, we need this to be disconnected from it. When this finishes counting down, we need to connect this to that same counting system. And when that happens, it's going to send a signal through to this dropper right here. So we need to make sure that this has the 1 extra item in, so that when that signal comes through that this has finished counting down, that doesn't cause that top light on this side to immediately go off at the same time as this bottom light. We need it just to continue its count, and then when it reaches another certain stage later on for that light to go off. So that's why we have that. And the reason I've done this in this orientation rather than having this one in the middle like over here is simply because having these both the same way rather than a mirror image of each other just makes it a little bit easier with wiring it all up. So I am doing this one in the form of a time lapse rather than just skipping through it like I usually do, so that I can kind of talk a little bit about what's next with the channel, where I'm going after I finish this base. Now I have read the comments. A lot of people have been asking about other Hermit's bases, in particular Green's and Impulse's base. Now Impulse, I'm not too sure about. I haven't really been following his season, so I'm not very familiar at all with his base. I kind of just vaguely know what it looks like, so I'm not really sure on that one. Green's, however, I do regularly watch Green's videos, and his base, I would say, is a distinct possibility, at least from like an exterior aesthetic point of view. I may be able to do it. It's not going to come directly after this because, you know, this has been a massive project building and working out this base. So I definitely want to take like a little break and do some other stuff. I've got some ideas for maybe some survival, maybe even some multiplayer survival stuff that I would like to do. But I will definitely look into doing Green's base maybe at some point in the new year. Phew, all done with that. So what we're going to do now, we have our 4 areas set up, our 4 displays. And what we're going to do now is we're going to build the counting system, so that a redstone clock that's going to slowly count these down. And what we want to do is we want to build a clock that is going to produce 1 redstone pulse into each of these 2 hoppers and the ones over there, approximately every 30,000 ticks, which is 1.5 Minecraft days. Well, that means you'll have 1.5 Minecraft days, and every time you pass that time, one of these lights is going to go out until we feed the base, we give it a golden apple or whatever it is we're using, at which point the entire thing will then fill back up. So to start this off, we're going to come underneath these two pieces of smooth stone right here, place a solid block and another one. So we have a solid block right here, and we're going to place ourselves a redstone torch down that block. And then down here and underneath it, we're going to have a comparator running into it. And what we want here, if I just place a temporary block here, place a temporary hopper there. This is going to get removed. Have a hopper going into that one. Have a hopper going into that from the side. Hopper going into that from the side. And then remove that first one placed and have a hopper going in there. So what we have now is we have these 4 hoppers with a repeater. Not a repeater, sorry, a comparator. And if we throw any old item into these, you'll see how that occasionally blinks off. So we're creating just occasional pulses out of here. And let me grab that redstone block again so we shut this off. And now what we need to do, come down here and make sure you can take a redstone signal out of this. We're then going to come 1, 2, 3 that way with our redstone dust. Another 2 on the end there with repeaters facing like that. And we're going to face those repeaters into a pair of solid blocks like so. On each end of those, like that and like that, place another solid block. Now in the middle of that ones you've just placed on these 2 blocks here, we're going to have hoppers facing into each other like that. Take a comparator out of each of them. Comparator out there, comparator out there. Have those comparators going into solid blocks with a wee bit of redstone dust on top. And then let's see, we need some sticky pistons. So we're going to have a sticky piston just there. Sticky piston just there. And a block of redstone on top like that. What we can now do is fill any one of these hoppers with a full 5 stacks of any items like that. And what's going to happen at the moment, we've now created a hopper clock. So this hopper would gradually spit all of its items into this. And when this runs out, the redstone block is going to get pushed across and all of those are going to go back and so on and so forth. However, the problem with that is this in and of itself will only give us a maximum about 2.5 minutes between each pulse that it sends out, which is obviously nowhere near long enough. This thing would run out super fast. So by having it attached to this, these 2 repeaters here keep these hoppers locked so this redstone clock is off. Every single time we get a pulse out of here, 1 item is going to go across, and that means that this slows this down a lot. But it hasn't yet slowed it down enough. So what we're now going to do is run this up to another similar redstone clock, which is then going to be running really slowly because 1 item comes out of here with every pulse from that. 1 item will come out of our next redstone clock with every pulse from this. And then that is what we're going to run into our system up here to count down. So what we're going to do to create our link that's going to connect this clock to the next one is we're going to have an observer facing into this part here. Now this may be the redstone block has got pushed across like that, depending on how you set up this clock. It doesn't matter. Either way, you just have this observer facing into the right hand one of these 2 pistons. And then behind and below that, we're going to stick ourselves a repeater on a 2-tick delay just to slow down the pulse from this slightly. Have that running into a block with a torch on the side of it like so. And then just here coming out of that torch, we're going to have our 2 bits of redstone like that. 2 redstone repeaters, have them running to the solid blocks, and then the same as what we did over here, we are having those 2 blocks coming out to the side. Again, same as before, we're going to put our hoppers facing into each other. We're going to place a couple of comparators coming out of them. Those comparators are going into solid blocks. The blocks have redstone dust on top of them, and we have our pistons. Oops, don't turn that like that. Okay, pistons. I need to get a redstone block black. So let's take that on top of there. And then finally, you're just going to put 2 items in like so. Now the reason we put 2 items only into this hopper clock, essentially this system down here with our little rotating item in there and our hopper clock here, this one I timed it and it gives us approximately 15,000 ticks, which would be 3/4 of a Minecraft day, which I thought was just a little bit too short of time to have this counting down. I didn't want to make it too long, but I didn't want to make it quite that short. So by having the 2 items in this one, that essentially doubles our time on it. So because this needs to give 2 ticks rather than just 1 for a tick to get here, if we put 3 items in here, that would triple that time, and so on and so forth. So if you want to make this countdown a bit slower than 1.5 Minecraft days, let's say you wanted to make it 3 Minecraft days, you could put 4 items in there, and that would give you 3 Minecraft days for every light to go off. So what we need to do now, we need to rig up the system that's going to take the pulses out of this final redstone clock and link it into this dropper and this dropper, so they start actually spitting their items out and counting down. So we're going to come out of whichever one of these does not have the redstone block over, whichever way you set this up, it's going to be in one or the other. We're going to take a line coming out of it like this with some redstone. So whenever this pulses, every time this moves across here, we're going to get 1 pulse out of this, which is going to connect into that one and connect into this one. And we don't want to connect into the dropper itself because that is a solid block and that will also power that. So the item's just going to basically go like that. So we want to power this block directly below it. So we're going to come 1 that way and 1 that way. So now when this moves across, that's going to power this block, which is going to cause this dropper to spit it out. And we also need to run it over to here, but we don't want to just do it like simply coming over like that, because then this is going to just be counting down alongside this. We need to have a system that means this is only going to count down this one if this has already got to the bottom. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to come down to where these bottom lamps are just here, come out of this one, 2 blocks, stick your repeater there and some redstone dust. So that's going to take us the signal out of here. Put a redstone lamp there, it's going to turn itself off because this block is powered. Come down and come out across here like that until you hit this bit you've built across here. We're going to take 2 bits of redstone dust coming out of this torch, so when this comes on, this is going to get powered. Have a sticky piston and finally a block. Now if you come over here and you have a repeater like that, what's going to happen is at the moment we'll stick some redstone dust just over this side. Until this goes off, this block is going to remain just here. So there's no way for a signal to get across from that to that because there's a gap. However, when this light goes off, that torch is going to come on. The piston's going to push the block out to here. Block's going to get powered by this whenever there's a pulse from there. And that is then going to send that pulse into our dropper up here. Now this is the reason why this dropper had 1 more item in than the others. Because at the moment, when this turns itself off and this pushes out, that is going to create a pulse here because that will currently be in its position over here. This will all be powered. So when that comes out, we're going to get a pulse into that and it's going to lose an item. So we want to make sure that that top light stays on when this loses its first item just from that sticking out. So that is now our timing system all hooked up to this first side. And what we need to do is hook it up to these other 3 sides. So the first thing I'm going to go do is I'm actually going to repeat this little section here, just this little loop that connects these 2 and this bit coming down the center here. I'm going to go repeat that bit on all through these. So give me a second and we'll come back once I've done that. Grand, so now I've done that, what we need to do is we need to take this, basically the same as we've taken it out of here. We're going to take it out of this side and hook it up to anywhere on this side of this repeater. So hook it up to one of those 2 and on that side and on that side. What we want to avoid when we're building this is going straight through the middle because there is going to be the system coming up the center of this that has the sound of the heartbeat. So we're going to make sure we stick to the edges as we build this. So we're going to come around like this, sticking close to the edge until we get over to here. And we're going to do a similar thing going over to this side and across to that side, making sure we go around the edges. So there we go. I've now connected all of that up. As you can see, it's all connected there. And you can see there I've put a few repeaters in to make sure that that signal strength actually gets from that clock to each of these other ones. Now the last thing we need to do before we go and put in that central heartbeat is create the system that's actually going to reset these. So we're going to take in an item which is going to be a golden apple, and whenever we take in a golden apple, it's going to reset all of these all the way up to the very top. So those are nice and full again, all the lights are on, and we can start the countdown again. Now you can put your input chest wherever you want in this base. It doesn't really matter so long as you can figure out how to build up the same system that I'm about to show you and then connect it in to your lights down there. As long as you can do that, it's fine. I am going to be putting mine right in here, just in the middle of this garden section that's up top underneath the hut. So I'm going to find the center point of this circle that I have here, which, let's see, there's the center point and there's the center point. So I think that blue flower is actually on it. So I'm just going to break that. Sorry, flower. Get that out of the way. Put my chest down and then break the block underneath that carefully so I can take an item with a hopper down from this. And we'll go down there and we'll start rigging up the system that's going to collect our golden apples. So the first thing we're going to do here, you can see the underside of the chest there. I'm going to place a hopper coming down and another hopper coming down like that to drag those items out of it. And then underneath this, I'm just going to need to grab myself any old temporary block here. We want a hopper facing sideways into a temporary block like that. So this hopper facing sideways, this is the one that's actually going to be our sorting hopper. So this is the one that's going to have our golden apple and some filler blocks in order to make sure that we can only take in golden apples through here. So underneath this one here, this sorting hopper, we're going to place another one facing down, which we can then use to come off any direction from here. I'm just going to come out the back of it and go 1, 2, 3 solid blocks with another solid block coming down like that. A solid block right there and a solid block there. So you have this little loop of blocks like that coming out of that one that is pointing to the side. So we're then going to take a comparator, some redstone dust, a torch and a redstone repeater. Take the comparator coming out of that hopper, go 1, 2, 3 redstone dust with a repeater going into this block and a torch on top of it like that. So that's going to power this block, which is going to lock this hopper from sucking any items out of this one. So now what we need to do, we need to grab our golden apple. That is going to be our key item to fill these back up. If you want it to be something other than golden apples, that's fine. Just use whatever you want. Golden apples going in there. And then these need to be filled up. Each of these 4 spaces needs 11 blocks in. So 11 there, 11 there, 11 in this one, and 11 in that one. And that means now that every time we get a golden apple in there, the next golden apple that comes in is going to go through there. Now obviously I'm just putting in the yellow concrete as it is. Whatever block you put in here, I would recommend naming with an anvil, filler, or something like that. Something that means you can't accidentally put the wrong item in that will then get sucked through and cause this golden apple to get sucked out, and that will break your sorting system. Now what we need underneath this is a way of disposing of the apples that come through here, so we don't just end up with a chest or a hopper that it gets completely full up with golden apples eventually, and then this all gets filled up, it can't detect the apples anymore, and that will break our system and we'll no longer be able to top up our base. So we're going to take a dropper, and underneath this one we're going to put a dropper. I'm pointing this, let's see, I want to point this other way. I want to make sure it's not pointing into the middle because that could get in the way. So we're going to point it that way. And now you'll see if I just stick a golden apple in here, that golden apple gets spat out of that dropper. So what we can do, we'll have like a little a pool of lava which we encase in concrete around here. It's also important to make sure none of these solid blocks around here that you've used are flammable because we don't want the lava setting fire to any of that. So we'll have our little pool of lava down here, and we will make sure that that golden apple goes into that lava and gets destroyed. Okay, so very simply I've built a 1-block lava pool directly where that dropper is spitting into. So if again, we'll put an apple in there, and you saw that apple got spat into the lava, that apple is now gone. It's not going to be clogging up our system at all. Now to take our signal from getting our apple, we're going to bring another comparator signal out of this same hopper. Doesn't matter which way you go, just make sure you don't go in towards the middle. So I'm going to come out this way over where the lava is. So we're going to make sure we cover that up. We're going to take a comparator out of there, and we want to be able to come 1, 2, 3 redstone blocks. At the moment, this 3rd redstone bit of dust is not powered. As soon as one more apple comes in there, this will be powered. So we're going to come out one more. We are going to give ourselves a repeater. Bring a repeater out there. And then whenever we get an apple through there, we're going to get a nice strong signal out of here, which we can run down to there and into each of these in order to reset the system. So what we're going to do, we're going to set that repeater to a full 4-tick delay. Bit of redstone dust there, come down a block. Have 2 bits of redstone dust like that. With then here, we're going to have a comparator facing that way, comparator facing that way with 2 more bits of redstone dust. So we've made this basically into a comparator pulse extender, so we get a bit of a longer pulse out of this when that apple comes through it. Now from this system you've just created there, we're going to come down and out 1 more block like that, stick some redstone dust on top of there, with then a piston facing down next to it. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 slime blocks with a redstone block underneath. So then this is basically what we're going to use to extend that signal downwards towards our 2 droppers. Now remember, this redstone block, when this activates, this is going to be 1 block lower, so it's actually going to be there. So placing that temporary block underneath it, and then out of that temporary block underneath is where we're going to be running our redstone signal. Break both of those. Come out of here with a comparator on subtract mode, and then we're looping that comparator back around into the side of itself. So this is going to make a really fast comparator clock that we can hook into that dropper and this dropper in order to make them spit out all their items. So that's what we're now going to do. We're going to zigzag down from this. So we're going to come down like this. Probably need to do a little bit of a loop around in a second. So yeah, let's loop around there. And we're basically running it into a solid block on top of that one and a solid block on top of this one. That is where we are heading for. So let's see if I can do this. I might need to put in a repeater at some point. I'm not sure. Let's count this. So then they've got signal strength 15 coming out of here. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. No, that should be fine. Is it going to be fine over here though, I wonder? Let's count. Yeah, okay, it turns out it doesn't quite reach to that one, so I've just stuck in a repeater here to make sure that it will do. And what we now need to do is basically take a signal out of anywhere here and loop it into those ones, and those ones, again avoiding the center. Excellent, that is all connected up. I think I have repeaters everywhere I need them. So all that's left to do now is create the central system that is going to be the heartbeat. Now Mumbo's method of doing this involves a column of water that goes at the center, which he moves a soul sand block in order to change the bubble column in it, and that is what creates the block update all the way up the column water, which I really like and I think it's very clever. But as we all know, water and redstone do not necessarily mix terribly well, and I think I have a better, safer way of doing it using walls. So let me show you how this works. So when you have a wall with blocks to either side of it like this, as you can see, it has this kind of style to it where it's a central column with a little bit sticking out to either side. However, that is only because we have a block missing up here. So as soon as we fill in this block up here, so both sides are completely taken up with these blocks, you can see that that wall now changes to being completely smooth and flat. And that change happens down the entire length of the wall instantaneously. So we can use a piston like this. I've used the lights here so you can see that this happens at the same time. Click on the piston, and that creates that beat all the way down every time that piston moves at exactly the same time. So we can use this to create this going down our base at the same time so that our whole base has the heartbeat synced up. So we're going to start by coming down here to the floor of our base, finding the center. Let's see that block. So somewhere on this block and that block. Yeah, I'm standing on it. So there. And we're going to build this up pretty much as high as we can until it is just below that sorting system up there. And you can use any type of wall you want for this. I'm just going to go with stone brick wall. So there we go. I've built that up until it is level with our dropper here that we placed. And now we need to make sure we have blocks going all the way up either side of it. It can be any solid block you want. Just remember there's lava just over here. So I think it can set this block right there on fire. I'm not sure. Just to be safe, we're going to use non-flammable blocks. But other than that, any type of block you want to put on either side of this will do. So there we have our wall. At the moment it is fully covered on both sides by the solid blocks, the cobblestone blocks. If I knock this one out, you see that whole wall then changes. So this block right here, this is the block we're going to be moving with a sticky piston. So we'll get on now and start building that system. So to build the system, we're going to start here with this block just out from the wall like that. And then behind it, whoops, we are going to place our sticky piston. Now on top of the sticky piston, we want a solid block and another one out to the side like this. And then go 1, 2, 3, 4 solid blocks in that direction. 1, 2, 3, 4 solid blocks there. We're going to place a couple of redstone dust like this. Oops, landed on it. Then on this side, go 1, 2, 3 repeaters, and on this side, 1, 2, 3 repeaters. At the end of the repeaters going outwards, place a solid block, and then next to them place some dust like that. So this is going to be our clock that powers that piston going in and out and in and out. Now we're going to leave this for now. We're not going to start this going until we've sorted out all of our note blocks. So to give ourselves a little bit of room, we're going to leave a block gap underneath here, and then break the next block and have an observer facing into that block. And we're going to do that on all 4 sides. Then coming out of those observers, we're going to have these note blocks. And now make sure you shift click when you're clicking on these observers so you don't change the notes on them. We're going to go 1, 2, 3 observers with another note block on the end, and do that for each of these. Now the last thing, again, make sure you're shift clicking for this, is underneath each note block. We're going to place a piece of regular old stone. So we could set this going now. That would create our heartbeat, but the problem is we'd only be able to hear it up top here and probably on maybe the little path that goes around the side halfway down, but I do not think we would be able to hear it down below. So to make sure we can hear this one on the bottom floor as well, we're going to go down there and we're going to put this same system that we've just built up there underneath. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down underneath it and we're going to dig ourselves out a nice 13 by 13 by 5 deep area to work with, giving ourselves a little bit of space to build this in. And we need to bring our wall down, bring that all the way down here, and bring our solid sides down. Now it doesn't matter that this bit here is different, that this is a wood block rather than a stone block. That is fine. Just make sure whichever side you have these on, so we've got it like that, make sure that this block here where the wall goes through, and the same on the other side, make sure that those have been brought out, because if there's a block there, that changes the wall, which will block off anything below here from getting that same signal that comes down from above there. So make sure that block and that block have been knocked out. And then quite simply, now that we're down here, we're going to create much the same system that we built there. We're going to go observer, 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 and observer. We're going to have our note blocks on each of them, then shift clicking, 1, 2, 3, oops, 3, and a note block on the end, and each of those note blocks needs to have a bit of stone underneath it, and make sure you do that on all 3 sides. And there we go. Now that that is built, we're going to head back up to the top and we're going to see how well this works. So with those systems down there all built up, we can come back up to the top here, have a look at our repeaters. You can see that all 6 of these I have set to a maximum 4-tick delay. That is what we want. And what we want to do, we've placed a lever here underneath the bit of redstone on the end. I'm going to pull this, the signal's going to start coming down here, and I want to turn that off at the exact moment that this 3rd repeater comes on. So at the exact moment this comes on, I'm turning that one off, and then as these 3 are turning themselves off, those 3 will be turning themselves on, and it'll give us a nice even clock and a nice even heartbeat. So I'm going to make sure I can see the end repeater when I'm pulling this lever, so we're going to turn it on. Okay, good. That sounds pretty even to me. Let's get rid of that. And then that is our heartbeat going. So I'm going to head outside now and we will see if we can hear this. So yeah, I can certainly hear the heart beating all around this top garden. And if I come down here, yeah, it's a little quieter, but I can definitely hear it around this outside path. And then if we come down to the bottom, I can hear that down on this ground floor as well. So that's good. That is our heartbeat all set up and working nicely. So back inside the base now for the last time. We're back with that original 4 little hoppers that we put facing into each other. What we're going to do, throw an item into there. And you can now see that blinking, which means this clock is now, yeah, you can see that counting down, which means very, very gradually, like I said, approximately once every 1.5 Minecraft days, one of those lights is going to go off. And when we put an apple, a golden apple in the top there, all of them are going to come back on. So I've just given that a little bit of time for that to count down. As you can see, that top light has gone off. As you can also see, we do have a little bit of an issue with that next light down, and I know exactly what's causing that, and we'll go deal with that in a second. But first, I just want to check that this turns itself on again properly. Let's just check some of the other lamps. Yeah, okay, so that's gone off as well. So all that connection stuff we did there is working. And if we come in here, we're going to come to the chest. Oops, I need to actually give myself a golden apple first. Now if we come to the chest, see that golden apple in there, good, that disappears. Let's fly out. Good, and that light has come back on. And if we fly around here, good, that one's come back on. That one's come back on. And last of all, that one's come back on. Good, so they've all come back on. We'll go inside and deal with that issue with the light, and then we will be finished. So here is our 5th lamp down. And if you recall when we were doing this redstone, I said about this system here, which was different from all the rest, because we had to do it like this to make the signal reach, which is true. However, it literally only reaches, like it is a 1 block difference here in whether it reaches or not. Which means by doing this, we make it reach to this block, but if I come down and take an item out of there, so on our 5th, the signal does not reach to this block. So the way we are going to solve that, I think we should just be able to replace that comparator with a repeater instead. And just double check that I haven't now made that signal out coming out there too powerful. If I take that 4th one out, good, that lamp still goes off. We haven't made a too powerful signal. So we're going to replace that one with a repeater. We're going to replace the same one over here with a repeater. And we're going to do the same for those other 3 there as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to a close on this final episode of Mumbo Jumbo's Hermitcraft Season 7 Megabase. I've had an absolute blast building this, reverse engineering it, figuring it all out and building it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed watching this series as much as I have making it. It really has been an absolute journey for the channel making this series. I think I was on not even 100 subscribers when I started it. I'm now on nearly 1,000, which is absolutely insane. So to any of you who have subscribed, whether it was from this series or one of my other videos, thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate you. Speaking of subscribing, if you're not already and you did like it, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more future videos from me. Right, I think that's more than enough self-promotion to be getting on with. So I'm going to leave it here with the lovely backdrop of this awesome base we have created. As always, there'll be a world download in the description, so you can use that to help you if you need. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you smash that like button and also drop a comment letting me know what you thought. I always like reading your comments. But until next time, whenever I think of what I'm going to do next, I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.